Hello, everyone, and welcome to your episode 2 of the OGs show, but just 2 instead of 3. 3's a crowd and all that. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by Jonny McFarlane to talk all things Rangers. How goes it, Jonny?
Good, mate. Good. Delighted to be on to talk to you. Sad that Joshua can't be here, but he's a busy man.
Yeah. It may be international break, but lots going on behind the scenes at Rangers Review HQ, and Joshua is snowed under with a lot of things at this moment in time. So just myself and Jonny. Before we talk all things Rangers and what has been a pretty busy week, you've got to say, just a quick word from our podcast sponsors, S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh, and the surrounding areas, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. So start your search today. Right, where shall we start? Well, it's been a good week if you're a Rangers supporter, Jonny, because Rangers headed into the international break off the back of a long overdue, you could say, win at Parkhead. They hadn't won there since 2020, the Connor Goldson double back in the COVID season. But Rangers showed balls, you could say, to win on Sunday after Celtic pegged them back to a piece. Hamza Igeman Stunner sealed the 3 points, and it's led to a bit of a clamour, you could say, for Barry Ferguson to be given the job on a permanent basis. He's now masterminded the Europa League doubleheader against Jose Mourinho and got the better of Brendan Rodgers in his own backyard. It's fair to say, seems to be getting a tune out of what was a failing squad. What have you made of the impact that Barry, not just Barry, but his coaching team of Alan McGregor, Issam Shirai, Billy Dodds and Neil McCann have done so far?
Well, clearly, with the exception of the Motherwell result, very, very good, Derek. But one thing I would say about Rangers over the last few years is it's been a squad, and I know it's been a changed squad, but regardless, Rangers in recent years have shown through a number of different managers that managerial rebounds, managerial bounces can happen when there's a change. We saw it with Michael Beale taking over from Giovanni van Bronckhorst. We saw it from Clement when he came in, taking over from Michael Beale. And we're seeing it now. Now, this is something that is not unusual in world football. It happens all over. When there's a change, when there's an unpopular manager, when tactics are switched around and teams don't quite know how to cope, having become used to a style of football, there can be a bit of flux that creates a passageway for good results. Now, I think there's more than that going on with Barry, but it's far too early to get going down the Barry must stay rabbit hole. I don't want to do that. I would say he's been authoritative, impressive. He looks like a Rangers manager. Tactically, very good. To have gone to Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, and put in that performance was something special. Barry deserves a lot of credit for that. The Ibrox game was a loss, but it's not really, because you get through. Enough was done, and that's a great result because most of us thought Fenerbahce would have too much. And in that second half at Ibrox, they really showed what they're capable of, and I think it's fair to say they were a damn good side with a damn good manager. And then going to get the better of Brendan Rodgers, also excellent. So, well done to Barry and the team. But before we assess the big picture, I think we need to get to the end of the season and see how Barry's done. How has he got on in that last game against Celtic? How has he made consistency in league performances? And what's happened in Europe? And then, and only then, I think, can we start to have a sensible conversation about Barry being part of things going forward. One thing I would say, Derek, is I'd be very, very wary of going down what I would see as the absolute worst case scenario. For me at the moment, my best case scenario is Rangers go out and get a really, really talented manager to come in and take over Rangers. Barry goes away, his legendary status cemented, to take on a job and perhaps build himself up to come back to Rangers down the line when his CV's up to scratch. The second best scenario is Barry and this team remain. The worst scenario, Derek, would be for me that Barry would be part of another manager's team, especially a foreign manager who comes in with Barry as his kind of number two. I don't think Barry Ferguson is going to be a number two to anyone and is ever that kind of character where he's going to be temperamentally suited to be a follower rather than a leader. And I think that would be the worst decision that Rangers could possibly make. So I think these three options there clearly, and I think option 1 or 2, based on what we've seen so far, are amenable, but option 1 at the moment is the far more obvious route to take.
Well, he was asked about it after that game on Sunday. One of the questions was, is there any part of you thinking about next season? He says, I've got a contract at the end of May. I'm not even thinking, if I'm being honest with you. I'm thinking just make sure I go on a good run with this group of players. Keep trying to improve every single day we're in training. Then come the end of May, I'll be away on a family holiday. And then pressed on it, would you like to be back here in the coaching staff one way or another next season? And he said, I've not even thought about it. Honestly, if you know me and anybody who's close to me, I don't think further ahead in my contract. So what I've got a job to do is to come in here and sort a few issues slowly but surely. Myself and the coaching staff and everybody who's still in at the club, we're going in the right direction, but there's still a lot of things that we can improve on as a group of players, but also within the training centre. And that's something we're desperate to do. So that is what Barry had to say after the game against Celtic. And it's fair to say he has a Motherwell aside, but I mean, again, the Kilmarnock game at Rugby Park was quite something. Rangers with that horrendous start and coming back and winning by 4-2. He only had, about a couple of training sessions, if that, with the players before Motherwell. The home record, as we know, is poor, to say the least. But the more time he's got with this group of players, the two-legged tie against Fenerbahce showed character, doggedness, fight, everything you want to see in a Rangers team. And I know that it was pretty much squeaky bum time last week, of course, when Jose Mourinho's team came back and drew Rangers level 2 apiece, going to penalties. It's always a bit of a lottery. I thought the worst when Fenerbahce levelled matters, but just as Sunday showed, this is a Rangers team now that seem to have a bit of fight in it, and I think Barry deserves great credit for that. I'm not entirely sure a Philippe Clement team would come back in these two fixtures, Johnny. So with regards to that, it looks like Barry's certainly stamping his authority on the squads and the sort of roll your sleeves up job that we've seen in the last couple of games.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's a squad performing in the manager's image.
Yes.
Barry was tough as old boots as a player, would play through the pain barrier. In fact, as a close observer of his career, I often felt that he actually did that to his detriment. His bravery and his professionalism and his commitment to play and to turn out for the club, I think meant they often turned out when he just wasn't 100% right. And as he got older, that came back to bite him in the backside a little bit at Rangers. One thing you have to say about what Barry and his team have instilled is they've instilled what I would say is a pragmatism about playing for Rangers, what it means to play for Rangers, what you need to do to perform in this league. One of the first things you notice is they're much closer. Barry is doing this on the touchline all the time. He's doing this all the time. What does that mean? He's saying get closer to your man, get tighter to your man, have a one-on-one battle, win your individual battles.
Yeah.
That's Scottish football. Barry understands Scottish football.
Yeah.
What's the other thing that they've done? Set pieces. How much better do Rangers look at set pieces under Barry Ferguson than they looked under Philippe Clement? Yeah. Now, Philippe Clement's a former Belgian international who understands football and has won 3 titles with 2 different clubs in Belgium. Has got a real good track record. But he just didn't quite grasp the things that those of us who have spent decades watching the game understand. Barry's one of those people. Clearly, work has been done on set pieces. And what's that, 2 goals in 5 games or something like that from set pieces, including 1 direct from a corner. which was a clearly worked corner from the Billy Dodds repertoire. So those two things alone, that physicality, that getting close to your man, winning your individual battles, and the set-piece routines, many would say that's absolute basics. Every manager should have that covered. That's the foundation stone of what you build. Well, we've not had that for quite a long time. And just Barry going out and making sure that he and his coaching team get on top of those basics has improved Rangers quite a bit. I think the other aspect to it is that there's clearly been, over these small amount of games, and it's a small sample size, I think an improvement in the midfield play. Now, is it tactical? Is it about a 3-man midfield as opposed to 2 with a guy in front and then those 2 being overrun previously? Yeah. I don't know. Josh is better to talk about that than I am. But I'll tell you what, I love the blend between Barron, between Raskin and Diamande. Not big guys, but actually physically quite powerful, quite imposing, able to put a tackle in, all able to play, get the ball down, put their foot in it, no problem at all. Diamande, I think, has been freed up by having the other 2 alongside him, push more into advanced positions and cause problems. And I just think the blend in midfield suddenly looks so much better, so much sharper. And again, is it any surprise? Barry Ferguson, midfield guru, midfield general extraordinaire, a guy who understands how to manage that position, having done it at the elite level himself? Probably not. And one thing about Barry, I go back to when he was a real young kid coming at the Rangers team under Advoca. He could manage a midfield. He could control a game with that metronomic passing of his, like almost no player that I've seen at Ibrox. And I think maybe people have underestimated Barry. I think what you need to be a Rangers figurehead, a Rangers leader, he has in spades. And I think he's showing that. So I was one of the people that really heavily doubted him, that really heavily doubted disappointment. Derek, I described it on Twitter as ludicrous. That was a wholehearted belief based on Barry's managerial record. But I have to say, I called that wrong. And based on the 5 games, I think you have to hold your hands up and say what he's done so far. I've called that wrong. And the boards and Patrick Stewart have called it right. And they've seen something that I've not. And you just have to say credit to them, because I don't think Philippe Clement, as you've said already, is getting through that round against Mourinho. And I certainly don't think he's going to Parkhead and playing with that poise and aggression and swagger in the first half that gave Rangers the foundation stone to build the victory on.
Yeah, he's certainly, there was a level of disconnect between the fan base and the team, and he's bridged that. So fair play as well for that. The fans love Barry.
Yeah, you're better to speak on that than I am, because you were out there, of course, and with the fans in Fenerbahce. And did you sort of get in Fenerbahce, in Istanbul at Fenerbahce? Did you get a sense of that out there talking to people?
But as a place, Fenerbahce, so you're technically correct there, Johnny. But
all right, okay, I didn't realise that wasn't. It's a suburb.
Yeah. Istanbul's huge, incidentally. I think 15 million people in there, and absolutely colossal city. I would advise that if you fancy going to Turkey, folks, it's well worth a trip. I very much would like to go back there, but chance of Barry was heard a few of those, and certainly the fans I spoke to were happy that he was at the helm, and he was very animated on the side of the pitch as well. He was kicking every ball, more so than Jose Mourinho, who we all expect. He's someone that we all know is very animated down there on the touchline, but he was more often than not sat in his seat, where it was Barry. It's almost like a player just on the side of the pitch with a suit on. So the fans like that, and I think the players has a positive effect, I think, on the players as well, John. If they look into the side and the manager's jumping up and down and trying to send his message across and is very passionate and animated, I think that has a psychological effect on the players as well on the park, as opposed to maybe if they're seeing their manager just slumped in his seat and not animated at all. I think that has a bit of an impact on.
Derek, I don't know if this is me psychologically, right? But do you feel like Barry's feels like a younger guy than he is? You know, he's 47 going on 48, but he's in great nick. You know, he looks good.
He looks like
he's not like one of these guys that's gone out of football and has put on a load of weight. I mean, it doesn't look all that much different to when he was playing. And there's only 3 or 4 years between him and Philip Clement, but it feels like a young guy's back in charge in terms of like the energy and the enthusiasm. And maybe the players just think, oh, this is the guy that understands us a bit more.
Yeah, and this is a dream job for him. You need to remember, this is a proper Rangers guy. He said it before in press conferences that he lived the dream, playing for the club that he loved. He captained the club that he loved. He won trophies, of course, silverware, and now he's managing. So he's lived out the boyhood dream, and he'll be looking to do his best as he possibly can. I'm sure in the back of his mind, he'll be hoping to be in a discussion come the end of the season, I'd imagine. I know I touched on there his comments after the Celtic game, but if he can do the best he can, if he can get past Bilbao, for me, that puts him in a very strong position come the end of the campaign. And we know the prospective new owners have been keeping a close eye on proceedings. They'll have no doubt have been impressed with what he and the coaching team have been doing. Just your point on being pragmatic there, Johnny. I think Rangers need to move away from this. I'm using the Neil Lennon air quotes here, a philosophy manager. You've seen some guys being touted as possible long-term replacements, and the philosophy manager, Russell Martin, is one that springs to mind that has been tipped. There are others. Rangers, for me, have to move away from that, and you touched it on there previously. I think we need a figurehead, someone there that understands the demands of Rangers, that a draw is a disaster, that you need to go and win every single game. Would you agree with that?
Yes and no. I think that it's a route to go down, and I understand what you're saying. And if you look at the Rangers managers of the past that have been successful, from Jock Wallace to Souness to Walter Smith to Steven Gerrard, they've often had that figurehead element to them. Yes. And it's very, very difficult for Rangers to go out and get someone who's brilliant on the training pitch and a figurehead and able to deal with the media scrutiny that you're going to have in Glasgow. So there's always that temptation if you can't tick all those boxes because you don't have the budget to do it. And listen, even if you did have the budget, it might be challenging to try and do what you did with Steven Gerrard, which is you get the figurehead and then you build the coaching team around them. And to an extent, Barry Ferguson's done the same. Barry is the figurehead, the brains of Neil McCann, the coaching nous of Billy Dodds and the experience of Billy Dodds at this level. And then Alan McGregor is a sort of joker in the pack and the goalkeeper coach. And then obviously Sam Chirai's there as well, who we often forget about when we talk about the guys that are there, but presumably he's had a big hand in the technical coaching as well.
Yeah.
So the one kind of thorn in my side to that point, Derek, while I can understand it, is who's been the most successful manager in Scotland over the last few years? Probably in terms of the style of play married with trophies, you'd have to say Ange Postecoglou. And he was a philosophy manager. So if you've got a manager that's good enough and the philosophy that is strong enough and the recruitment that makes perfect sense when married with the philosophy, then it can work and the results can be very, very good for the team that employs all that. So I wouldn't say, oh, you can't have a philosophy manager. But at the same time, I also think that Celtic kind of pulled Ange Postecoglou out of a hat. It was a bit of it was a 100-to-1 job that he would be so successful, you know? And they only went and got Ange Postecoglou after Eddie Howe had fallen through. So he wasn't even their first choice. I've heard stuff said in the past by people who I know are very knowledgeable about Celtic that Ange Postecoglou was further down than second choice. It was when he was appointed. But you understand my point. It's a kind of needle in the haystack. It's not a needle in the haystack. They
need someone that understands Rangers, though, John. They can't go down.
Ange Postecoglou understands Celtic. That's the counter argument. Now, I mean, he did because he was a good manager. He came to understand them. You know, did Dick Advocaat understand Rangers? But he was a good manager and he came to understand them. Now, to be fair, Dick had a lot of money to spend. But those of us who were around remember the quality of football above all else, and it was phenomenal for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that's always as important as we make it out, but different times, different contexts, there's always stuff going on. Barry Ferguson having that, bringing that to the team, I think right now is a perfect marriage, is a great fit. Come the end of the season, new boards, the takeovers happened. We've got a figurehead at the very, very top of the club that's changed. I'm not sure that you need that continuity. I don't know where the club will be and what they'll have to spend and how they're going to go about this. And that is the biggest question of all.
Yeah.
Now,
we need to hear from them, Jonny, and what their plans are, I guess, at the end of the day. We're just speculating at this point.
Once we have that information and we know a bit more about Andrew Kavanagh, I mean, for anyone who's not read Chris's phenomenal piece on Andrew Kavanagh yesterday on the website, that's the most detailed piece that I think we've had on him. Sounds like he's a guy who knows his football from the people that Chris has been speaking to. Former goalkeeper, not an American that brands football soccer. He's called it football. It's always been his passion.
Yeah.
So he'll have come in, hopefully, with a bit of knowledge like me or you, Derek, and a passion for football, and has watched the games and has come to his own conclusions about what this unique club needs.
Mm-hmm.
And it may well be that he thinks, if it's not broke, why change it? The thing, though, is that I get the impression that these American owners are not going to come in and be Vladimir Romanov types. And the reason that I say that is because they're doing it in conjunction. They're doing it in tandem with each other. Andrew has brought in alongside him the 49ers. So there's a reason he's done that. It's probably, you'd imagine, because he sees huge upside in having a massive organization there alongside them who have got the ability to scale up sports knowledge and sports expertise into other clubs. Yeah. So he'll see that as a big upside, and I'm assuming that's why they are in it together. And it'll be very interesting to see how they apply that. The key figure in all this is probably Greta Steinson, the director of football for the 49ers Enterprises Group. He's been alongside Andrew Kavanagh the whole time, and you have to imagine he'll be the guy that Kavanagh is bouncing ideas off, but he'll be the main football brain saying, this is the coach we need to go and get, or this is the director of football we need to go and get. Does Barry work well with the director of football, Derek? I mean, listen, I'm wary about what I want to say about Barry Ferguson having called it wrong and admitted that I've called it wrong. Do I get the impression that Barry will be that open to a director of football telling him that he's got to do this and he's got to do that and you've got to be using this level of sports science and these measurements have to be taken? He might well be, but he also might say, look, you're missing the point of what's needed here at Rangers and what's needed here to win this Scottish Premiership. And I know, because I've won many of them and I've been around the greatest winner of these titles of the last 50 years in Walter Smith, and I know what he did and I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
So I would have concerns about marrying that very new modern football thinking with a guy in Barry who I think is, if you look at his CV, is not rooted in that elite level of coaching. He was there as a player, no doubt about that. Played in the Premier League, won trophies in England, won trophies in Scotland, played at the Champions League level. No doubt about any of that. But as a coach...
Yeah, but he was a leader of men. He was a captain at all these clubs as well, if you remember. Led Birmingham to League Cup success, didn't he? I think he was captain.
Absolutely. And someone told me the other day that Jude Bellingham's favourite player of all time is Barry Ferguson. So, you know, that's a testament to how he led Birmingham, isn't it? That he transcended like that. And Jack Butland talking about it as well, about how big a figure Ferguson was at that club.
Yeah.
There's no doubt his leadership qualities have been underrated by numerous people, myself included, prior to him taking on the role, Derek. And I don't want to do that again. I don't want to make that mistake again. But looking ahead, looking at the type of organisations we're talking about here, I think we're at a stage where we can start to ask about the fit, ask about whether or not it's a good marriage. And I suppose the truth is we just don't know, because we don't know the role profile that they're looking for. I suspect they'll go down a very, very modern route unless Barry makes it impossible for them to do that. And if Barry was to get to a Europa League final, I think certainly even a semi-final would be a very big feather in the cap. But if he was to get to a final, I mean, how could you possibly deny him the chance of going in as a leader into next season?
Yeah,
it's a difficult one, and this is part of the problematic decision of putting in a club legend as manager, because when that club legend has a bounce, then there becomes a clamour for them to take the job on full time.
Yeah,
I still think it was the right decision to put him in, because we've seen the results so far, and the results speak for themselves. So, but they'll have to be, if Barry goes on to continue to take the club on at this level, Derek, the club is going to have to be very brave if they're going to make a decision that involves not having Barry at the helm full time. And like I say, I really, really hope we don't get to the worst case scenario all round, which is Barry as an assistant. I just don't see that. Barry's a leader. Barry's a leader of men. He needs to be at the top of the tree.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
That much is clear.
Yeah. Cracking show. I think we'll wrap up there, but interesting points raised. So hopefully you enjoyed that, folks. Episode 2 of the OGs show. We'll be back with you, hopefully, fingers crossed, all being well, in a fortnight from now. I think that's when we'll have the first leg of the Bilbao game, if I'm not mistaken, having taken place, remember, at Ibrox. Very much looking forward to that game.
We'll add some handsome to our ugly mugs, Derek, with Joshua.
Yeah. We certainly need him to balance things out. But we'll wrap up there for now. Big thank you to Jonny as ever. Thank you for your support to the channel as well, folks. If you are watching this on Saturday, then you can sign up to become a member of the Rangers Review Extra channel and get to watch this video and many others before anyone else. Just hit the join button on the Rangers Review YouTube homepage, and that'll take you through just £2.99 a month, and you get a Q&A show every week, get press conference reaction videos, and shows like this before anyone else. So thank you. If you are watching this on Friday, thank you for your support as ever. And we'll speak to you. Enjoy your weekend, incidentally, and we'll speak to you later on. Bye for now.